Initiating podcast download. Prepare yourself. Put on your spandex. Lace up your boots. Wrap your wrists. Hide your razor blade. Head to gorilla position. Grease up your hair. Apply baby oil. Okay, apply more baby oil. Get into gimmick. Keep your ears open and your mouth shut. Have fun and be safe out there, brother. Welcome to Iron on Wrestling. Now your host, Gregory Iron.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Iron on Wrestling with Gregory Iron. I'm your host, Gregory Iron. This is episode 258. My name is not Nate, but I'm feeling great. As I stated earlier, my name is Gregory Iron. I really wish I would get interrupted.
Pardon the interruption.
Okay, oh boy.
I let you hang there and struggle for a minute.
Sure did.
But, I thought you were going to go with a masturbate.
No, that's inappropriate.
Oh, okay.
And we're only 40-ish seconds in the show, so no swearing.
I'm not swearing. That's not a swear word, is it?
No.
Okay. We'll just wait.
Okay. Wait a minute. Give it about 8 seconds, then you can say a swear.
How many?
5.
No, you...
I understand.
Okay.
It rhymed, you son of a fucking bitch.
Ah.
1 minute in. All right. How are you?
Well, this is Aaron Bauer.
Good to see you.
I'm in the building.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's good to see you as well.
Thank you.
We've got a lot to talk about. We should just get right to it. We don't have much time, so hit the subscribe button.
Yes.
And hit the little notification key.
Yeah.
And then send us a like.
Yeah, all those
Subscribe
things.
to my YouTube channel.
Yeah, our YouTube channel.
And
Iron on
also
Wrestling.
our social media.
Yes.
Okay.
What's the social media?
Iron on Wrestling.
Okay, yeah, that's
friends.
Right. Yeah, Iron on Wrestling. You just subscribe wherever you download podcasts and all that good stuff. If you want bonus content, patreon.com/Iron on Wrestling for a buttload of bonus content. But we got a lot of stuff that we want to talk about this week.
Yes, we do.
Over on Patreon, we're going to do an in-depth review about the All Out pay-per-view and
Pay-per-view of the year.
some other stuff that might cross our mind. Maybe a little bit of CM Punk, Drew McIntyre stuff from last week. Some of the stuff from Raw and SmackDown.
Match of the year. SmackDown of the year.
And what was the last SmackDown on Fox?
That's what I meant when I said
End of an era.
last SmackDown of the year on Fox.
But there are some things that we're going to tease. Talking about the All Out stuff, we're going to talk a little bit about the Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page stuff. We're going to talk about Bret Hart in depth, or as in depth as possible, because he's going to be on Monday Night Raw, or he was on Monday Night Raw. As you're listening to this, what's your bad?
When you sent me the script, I studied Bret Hart.
Oh no, that's a common mistake. First made by Mr. RBI. Famous pro wrestler, two-sport athlete, by the way. His uncle, Barry Bonds.
He used to hit a lot of home runs.
Yes.
Never in the ring, but...
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I'm still very sad we never got a man called Swing.
I missed that.
Yeah, a plethora of things that I want to talk about today, but I think right off the rip,
Yes.
I want to talk to you about the man that is Hulk Hogan. Who last week appeared on Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast. And as soon as I saw this was a thing, I had to listen to the whole episode. Yeah. Why? Because Hulk Hogan does something every now and again that we cover on this show. And I'd like to call it Hulk Hogan's Lie of the Week.
Bro, you're a fucking jabron, man. Who the fuck are you?
Hulk, fuck, bro. Yo, why the fuck do you have to put me on the spot like this? I will tell you, I'm fucking Gregory, man. The Gregster, you fucking son of a bitch.
Yes. Hulk Hogan alone. Just spray and you bring you home. Just one spray and you're gone. Hulk Hogan alone. Woo! You like the smell of Hulk Hogan. You like the smell of Hulk Hogan. You like the smell of Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan alone.
Also, you wanted to talk about Hulk Hogan because he's your hero.
No. My childhood hero, but as a person,
Johnny Gargano
I'm not...
told me personally that Hulk Hogan was your hero. Is your hero.
First off,
Yes.
before we talk about the biggest thing coming out of the Impulsive podcast, we have to start with the lie. We got to lead with the lie.
Okay.
I want to take you to this conversation from the episode that just dropped last week and hear about this little clip that Hulk Hogan talks about the one person that he wishes that he could have had an interaction with in professional wrestling, a celebrity, if you will. You ready for this one?
Yes.
His idols, probably the one guy that I really wanted to meet. Actually, there were two. One guy I wanted to meet was Elvis. You know, when I started wrestling in Memphis, he used to ride a Harley and put a helmet on at night. He'd go out at night and ride his Harley around. And then he'd come to the Mid-South Coliseum and sit way up in the top of the building and watch wrestling. You know, and I came along and went through Memphis right after he passed away. You know, and I said, damn, if I'd have came here sooner, because I was wrestling in North Florida, Pensacola, and they were trying to get me to come to Memphis because when I was young, I had a look to me.
Okay, so now, as a reminder, if you guys are a long-time listener to the podcast, you probably think, hey, wait a minute. Didn't Iron Wrestling cover Hulk Hogan lying about Elvis? We did. Because actually, Hulk Hogan told the truth in that clip. Elvis did used to go to Memphis shows, supposedly, I've heard from other wrestlers over the years. However, Hulk Hogan had previously made a claim, which I went back into the archives and I found that audio clip. So let's compare and contrast what Hulk Hogan said.
Because I think I know what I'm in for.
6 years ago to Yahoo Sports compared to what he just said last week on Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast. Here it is.
I probably would say Elvis Presley.
Yeah?
Because when I first started wrestling and I started going to Memphis, he used to come in like the semi-main event, ride a Harley with a helmet and sit way up at the top of the Mid-South Coliseum. I didn't even know who the hell he was back in those days, you know. And that would have been the one guy, looking back, if I would have been aware or would have known who Elvis Presley was when I was first, or how popular he was, that would be the one guy I'd love to have had in the ring with me.
Okay, so he previously claimed, just to make sure we're all clear here, that Elvis used to come and watch him wrestle.
Yes.
In Memphis. But he had no idea who Elvis was.
Right.
Now, as a reminder, Hulk Hogan started in, I believe, 1978 or 1979.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me that Hulk Hogan, who played in a band, okay, his pretty much his whole childhood before he became a professional wrestler, that he had no idea who Elvis Presley, founder to some people, the king of rock and roll.
Yeah.
He didn't know who that was.
Well, he probably didn't know who he was because he was dead by then.
Yeah,
Elvis died in 1977.
But you would think you would know.
Oh yeah, he would know him for sure.
At that point,
I mean, he was famous. He was the most famous musician alive and dead.
So, yeah. So I guess Hulk Hogan, probably unbeknownst to even himself, has retracted his previous lie that he told the Yahoo Sports 6 years ago. Now, the next clip that I'm going to play for you that came out of this podcast, I want you to tell me if it is a lie,
Yeah.
or if it is a truth. Okay?
Yes.
This is also from last week's episode of Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast.
If Chris Benoit can do the crap he did and the fans still love him, you know, they're very forgiving. You know, I've made some major mistakes in my personal life, and they're very, very forgiving, but they forgive you. But
okay, so that's Hulk Hogan talking about the idea if Logan Paul were to turn babyface, Logan finds it questionable whether he could be a babyface based on his real life persona.
Yes.
That very, very hateable. So Hulk Hogan makes the claim that the wrestling community at large has forgiven Chris Benoit for his prior. What did he do now? Hold on, let me think about it.
He beat Sid for the title.
Is that what we're mad at him about?
No. Oh, he broke his contract with WCW and then showed up in the WWF.
No, they let him go. They released him. So it's not he didn't do anything dastardly there. I'm just trying. Like whatever he did must have been so insignificant that like maybe the fans, because we're fickle sometimes.
Yeah, we are.
We kind of get up in arms over nothing, and then over time we just like. Live and learn, forgive. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. No. Oh, yeah, he murdered his wife and child.
That's right.
We forgave him for that? I don't remember that happening.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, was it last year or the year before that WWE inducted him in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame, is he?
Really?
Yeah, because Hogan, he's in the Hall of Fame, though, right?
2 times.
Yeah.
2-time Hall of Famer.
Why is it twice?
Because he was inducted with the NWO.
Okay. But also, wasn't he removed?
I wouldn't say he was removed. I think they just quietly, forgot to mention that he was in the Hall of Fame for a second. Kind of like Jimmy Snuka.
Yeah.
And Fabulous Moolah. Your thoughts. Hulk Hogan Lie or Hulk Hogan Truth? Wrestling fans are forgiving because they've forgiven Chris Benoit for the crap that he did. Whatever the crap that was that he did.
I don't think that they've forgiven Chris Benoit. I don't think the majority have. I think maybe some have. I think some, like you, still watch his matches.
I can still watch his matches, but I can separate the art from the
I'm still not there yet.
Murderer.
So, yeah. So, Hogan, he doesn't speak for me.
Yeah.
But I don't know if as a whole anybody, this community.
That's the thing with cancel culture that I can't understand. You kill one woman and one child, and then that's just a life sentence for you? Like you can never come back from that?
No,
that's what
sentence.
I don't get.
That's a death sentence.
Well, I get. Well, yeah. We have not forgiven Chris Benoit. I don't know, like. He didn't use the excuse like he did when he made the Indian comment, but like perhaps maybe he was drinking too many real American beers when he was doing
That's
this
another
podcast.
thing I wanted to say. Look, if I'm going to go back to drinking ever, I don't want it to be real American beer because apparently that's what turns you racist.
Might be. Donald Trump has tweeted about it.
Because Hogan said, right then, it's too many of these beers, brother. I'm going to get heat for this.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, oh gosh, that's the beer talking. I don't want to drink that beer. It'll make me racist.
I literally, I could see the commercial where Hulk Hogan says, he's cutting a promo Hulk Hogan style, and he's just like, real American beer is for every American. And then he proceeds to just like be dressed like as a Native American.
Except for the Native American.
No. Like he just unintentionally.
Yeah.
It makes this incredibly racist commercial where he's a Native American and then he's in blackface, which isn't going to take much with his tan. And he's like speaking in ways that he probably should not be speaking, and he's trying to proclaim that this is a beer for everybody, but instead of hiring people, he just dresses up as various people, and it's very offensive.
Well,
Go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
What was he saying in that spot that we watched? We don't care if you're Democrat, if you're Republican, if you're gay, if you're straight. We all want the same things, and we all want, the borders closed.
Yeah. So I don't know what interview it came from because I wanted to find it and play on the show, but I was listening to a clip from Paul Scheer, who does the How Did This Get Made podcast, which is if you've never listened to it, it's a podcast where they make fun of terrible movies, and obviously Paul's been in various things over the years, great comedian, and he's listening to this audio clip of Hogan talk about real American beer, how it's for everybody, and how we all want the same things, whether you're gay or straight or whatever the color of your skin is. We all want the same things. We want good times and happiness, and we all want the borders closed. Like he sneaks that in there, and he says,
we all want God back into schools.
Yeah, and he's like, "Wait, what? What do we want?" So it's just very. Hogan's been losing it for a long time, and at 71 years old, I think it's about time to hang up the
guns
the
are
red and
still
yellow.
huge, though.
They
right?
are. I mean, his physique is still impressive.
How is that?
I don't know. I can't. I mean, do you still do steroids in your 70s? Like, is it just TRT? Like, or is it like a lot? I mean, TRT. If
is it just Real American Beer?
I don't think so, man.
Okay.
I don't think so. But yeah, that's the Hulk Hogan lie of the week. Unless you don't think what he said at the end there was a lie, then maybe reevaluate.
Let us know
your
if you feel like you've forgiven Chris Benoit. And if all of your friends have.
Yeah, and if so, please don't even talk to anybody about it. Just keep that to yourself, because
you can let us know, but no one else. Send Greg a DM.
Yeah, I'll read it on the show. What a fucking idiot you are. Make sure you just give us your comments at Iron on Wrestling on social media. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling sore. I made a surprise.
Butt?
No. As far as I know, you have not punched me in the butt anytime recently, which is good.
Well, you didn't try to coerce me into a relationship with your wife.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a wife.
Not have a wife there.
Yeah.
What about a girlfriend? You got one of those?
Yeah. For the moment, yeah. We're until she gets sick of me, or whatever. I don't know. So I made a surprise return to Alpha One Wrestling.
How did
this past
that go?
weekend in Canada. It was very nice.
No, but how did it happen? Like, were you the mystery partner of somebody? Were you a surprise entrant in the gauntlet?
Anthony Green, who has not been in Alpha One since he turned on me probably about 5 years ago. We used to be the team of Cooler House in A1 Wrestling.
Right.
And he turned his back on me. Mm-hmm. And then son of a bitch got signed to WWE for a second. And then he got released from WWE. And then he's been spending his time, a lot of time in Japan, actually. And he's been in the States for a couple weeks, the longest amount of time he's been in the States for a long time. And little birdie by the name of All Ego Ethan Page had contacted me a couple months back. And he said, hey, I need a mystery tag partner for Anthony Green, and I'd like it to be you, former Alpha One Alpha Male Champion. I think the crowd will pop for it. And I said, you know what? I'm in. I need to go back to A1.
And they run in Canada, right?
Yes, Hamilton.
So you have a passport?
I do.
Oh, did you get in any trouble with the border?
No, not this time around. But what's funny, on the way back, I drove to Canada with Philly and Marino, PME, and on the way back, 2 minutes from my house, we get pulled over last night.
Oh.
And the boys might have been puffing the chiba, the sticky icky, okay?
The legal.
It is. But, cops be copping sometimes. Yeah. And so they pulled us over, and it's like 1 a.m., and I just want to get home, get some sleep. I got to be up at 6 a.m., and these motherfuckers claim that they pull us over for tinted windows. And they roll down the window, and I'm in the back seat. And this guy's like, where's your ID, pal? And I'm like, in my wallet. I can pull it out if you'd like. And he's like, yeah, I would like that. And then I was like, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, fucking dickhead. And so I give him my ID, and he looks at my ID, and he looks at me, and he goes, you got any warrants, buddy? And I'm like, I shrug my shoulders. I'm trying to look into a camera. I'm like, no, I have no warrants. He's like, you sure about that? And I'm like, I'm positive. Just run my license. I didn't want to become dickish because I know these dudes have been smoking. So I'm like, I don't want this to go any further and them to find anything. Dickhead runs my fucking license. And guess what? No warrants.
Yeah. What about that speeding ticket you got that one time?
I mean, I've had a ton of speeding tickets.
From that, from the light when you stole Ricky Shane Page's car.
I forgot about that. Oh boy, that was awkward. Fucking lying sack of shit. Yeah, no warrants, no nothing, and no problems going over the border surprisingly this time, and I don't know, the crowd popped huge when I came out with Anthony Green. We took on Mark Wheeler and his little hoodlum big jacked man that he had with him, and you know what? I thought for sure we were going to become number one contender for tag team titles, but we slipped on a banana peel, and them boys got the victory.
Who was it?
Mark Wheeler and his big jacked up tag team partner.
Okay.
Whose name escapes me at the moment. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I landed on my head a couple times. I don't know. I'm still recovering from broken ribs. I was getting thrown around out there. Okay, Mark Wheeler and him both. They were crushing me. At one point, Mark Wheeler got me with electric chair drop, and I don't know if this was part of the delivery of the electric chair drop because it hurt my back and my ribs, but also he drove his head into my balls on the way down. And so for the majority of the match, while I'm getting punched in the face and kicked in the ribs, I just can't help but also think about my balls and how bad they hurt. And I'm worried
that they're going to start bleeding again.
Yes.
That's the first thing I thought.
Not kidding. The whole match, I'm just thinking, am I bleeding out my dick right now? Should I open my trunks and check? And I don't want to scare any of the kids here for multiple reasons, because I have bleeding and fucking... it went as well as it could be. More importantly, though, I was happy to be back in Canada, and I think they were happy to see me and AG back together. And you know what? So
you forgave him?
Yeah. You know what? It's funny. Ethan Page, when he booked this, he goes, I'll put you and Anthony Green back together. And he goes, what was the last thing you guys did? And I was like, well, he turned on me, and then we had a grudge match, and I beat him. And he was like, oh, okay, we never really finished that, huh? And I was like, no, we didn't. And he goes, oh, fuck. And he's like, fuck it. How about he just comes out and introduces you and you guys hug and it's all good. I'm like, yep, sounds great. So
just pay me.
That's how it went out. And so, it was good to see the roster. So many guys that I haven't seen in a long time, but particularly it was great seeing Cody Lane, former guest of the show, Dan the Dad, former guest of the show, and Warhorse, former guest of the show. And those guys, they're still out killing it and grinding, and still three of the most underrated wrestlers and characters, promos that I know of. And I don't know, now that I'm not doing this as much and as often, and especially, I keep forgetting that the pandemic is it was such a long period of time that there were so many guys where it's I literally haven't seen you since 2019. It's crazy. It was just nice to be with them and talk psychology and catch up on life and family and being grown-ups. And some of the people in the locker room, there's a couple people, I'm not going to name names, but they became kind of a dickhead post whatever they've been doing over the last 5 years. And that's
subscribe to Patreon for just $3 and you can hear who was a dickhead to Greg.
Maybe we'll talk about who's a dickhead. But overall, it's good to be back. I'm sore. Even though they beat me up, I was really thankful for the guys that I worked with, and my ribs are not in any worse damage than they were going into the match. And
I'll tell you what, they look delicious, but also weird that you're podcasting with me shirtless. So
that's because TNT Health, doing wonders for me. Save 10% with promo code IRON on. And hey, while we're at it, let's just go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, okay.
Juan Ortiz.
Oh, he's a good amigo. Amigo bueno.
I think he prefers being called a buddy.
Uh-huh.
We're all about the buddy system.
Okay.
Here at Iron on Wrestling.
Yeah.
And there's no gooder of a buddy. Yes, that's proper talk right there. Gooder of a buddy than Juan Ortiz and Of the Dead Designs. Because
I got an idea.
What's that?
This guy does designs, right? This Juan of yours?
He does.
Okay.
One of the best to do it.
So here's my idea.
All right.
The scene, heaven.
Okay.
The amount of clouds, 2.
All right.
Chris Benoit's on 1.
No. Okay. We're moving on from this idea.
All right.
Anyways, Juan Ortiz has been in the business for 20 years. He's done artwork for, I mean, I'm not going to name all the names. What I need you to
couldn't.
do, I can't, because like it's got to the point where it's like utterly absurd. Literally every day over on Juan's social media, his personal account, Juan Ortiz, his Of the Dead Designs account on Facebook, his Of the Dead Designs Instagram, every day he's posting about like, oh, so awesome to see my graphics in this person's Titantron. Oh, can't believe my graphics are on this person's action figure. Oh, wow. Every single major champion in wrestling right now has gotten a design from me on a T-shirt over the years. It's like, it's absurd at this point. So it's like, I think you need to see for yourself the quality and the amount of people that Juan Ortiz and Of the Dead Designs has created merch for. He's done stuff for Iron on Wrestling as well. Some of these shirts that we've made over the years, it's like been Patreon exclusive. So if you stuck with us, if you're in that $25 and up tier, you've received over the years 2 or 3 specially designed Juan Ortiz shirts, and you'll probably get another one before the end of the year. Hint, hint. So maybe sign up for that $25 and up tier and stick around for 2 months or more. But if you need a design for yourself, a logo for your business, something that you want to present to a loved one, a family friend, anything like that, Juan Ortiz and Of the Dead Designs will make that happen. And even though he's done so much prominent work over the years, he's willing to work with you. Why? Because he's affordable. He's still one of the people. He's a man of the people. And he wants to make sure that you get the best in the business from the best in the business. And you can save even more money with Juan. When you mention Iron on Wrestling, he's going to knock $20 off your first design. So,
and he's handsome as hell.
He's a very
Muy
attractive
guapo.
man. Okay, calm down. Easy, big fella.
Meow.
All right.
Kitty wanna Juan.
All right. So right now I need you to go over to Instagram at Of the Dead Designs. Follow Juan. I need you to go to Facebook.com/OfTheDeadDesigns if you'd like to contact him, or perhaps maybe you can go to his website, ofthedead.weebly.com, and contact Juan Ortiz and Of the Dead Designs today, because Of the Dead Designs is bringing artwork to life. And we're back
From what?
from our break.
Oh, yeah.
And
I ate a steak.
yeah, I didn't eat my steak yet, but I'll eat mine in a little bit.
I scarfed. You went to the bathroom for 2 minutes and 14 seconds.
It was longer than that.
Maybe, but I ate a steak in
I was
that
pooping.
time. And were you?
I pooped in your
I
bathroom.
can't even smell it. Congratulations on that. Did you use the poopery?
I did not.
Yeah, they're not a sponsor, but they're a good company. You spray that right into the turlet before you take a dump.
In the what?
Turlet.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Never heard of that.
how's that going for you?
It's okay.
You're pooping all right?
Yeah, it's coming out solid.
Mhm.
Again, that's because
And out of your butt?
that's because I don't. Well, where else would it come out?
I had a client who was regurgitating. Well, people thought he was throwing up, and I kept saying, it looks and smells like shit. I got the nursing staff to come in, and they took a look at him, and they go, no, this is shit. Well, they didn't use it in that. They said it's excrement.
Do you think that he did like Cartman did in that episode of South Park where he put food in his butt because he
No.
he tried to convince everyone that he could shit out of his mouth, and even he was unsure of it, and then when it came time
No, he
for
had
it,
a blockage.
he didn't have a your client.
Yes, he had a blockage, and the poop couldn't come out of his butt.
Oh.
So there was nowhere else for it to go, so he just started shitting it through his the trachea.
Well, that's not like Cartman at all, because Cartman defied logic and physics and just put food in his butt and then shit out of his mouth.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did Cartman then die
Nope. He's
several
good.
days later?
He's good.
Oh, my client did.
I think Kenny died in that episode.
Rest in peace, Hambone.
Oh boy. Well, this is getting dark, so let's. Well, it's not going to get much lighter because we want to talk about. Well, I guess depending on where you're in the proximity in which you're sitting when this is occurring, Hangman Page last week lit Swerve Strickland's house on fire.
And according to Dave Meltzer, that was the first time that angle's ever been done where a man has lit another man's house on fire.
Yeah, that's not true.
And when did it happen?
Probably about 2017 when Randy Orton lit the house of Bray Wyatt on fire.
Yeah. But then Randy Orton got fired, right?
No, he didn't. He just. I mean,
That's
like,
just what you told the client at work.
Yes.
Okay.
That is what I told the client at work because he was really mad that I would say that Randy Orton would get fired. Mind you, again, Randy Orton, the babyface in this feud, went to Bray Wyatt's childhood home and burnt it down, and then stood in front of it and did his Randy Orton pose, which I think makes it funnier. And was that before or after they did that terrible, terrible match where they like fought inside of a house, like that cinematic match?
Wow, dude, I don't remember.
But you remember?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I think
Yeah,
it was at like an Extreme Rules or something. But it was fucking awful. That's when like WWE. This is pre-pandemic, so like
there was no excuse for it.
But WWE, they seen the popularity of the Matt Hardy stuff.
Yeah.
So they're trying to figure out how to do their own cinematic matches, and they're just not hitting the way that Matt Hardy was pulling it off. Matt Hardy was doing it the way it should be done. Meanwhile, they're trying like they did that like New Day versus Wyatt family fight in the
lake.
Yeah, near the lake or whatever that one time, or on the Wyatt family grounds or whatever the fuck they did.
Yeah.
And then they did this thing with Wyatt and Orton, and it wasn't until the pandemic that they started figuring out how to do, to some extent, cinematic stuff, and they've still hit or miss. Like, I mean, obviously you had the stuff at the WrestleMania that year, but then, they did that weird Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt thing, Fiend.
And somebody ended up in a lake there, right?
Yeah, a lot of stuff with water.
Yeah.
Very popular.
Huh. Well, that's because the COVID couldn't exist in a lake.
Oh, okay. That's how that works. Anyways, we're not talking about cinematic matches. The point is, that wasn't the first time with Hangman Page.
So Dave, you're wrong again.
Yeah, with the house being set on fire. Dave's losing his step in his old age.
Yeah,
I gotta say. But I will say, while I didn't watch AEW for that go home for All Out, I did watch that segment, and visually impressive. It's probably one of the more impressive things AEW has done. I think it was a big way to close that show. But again, here's my thing, and you tell me how you're feeling. I just came off of a AEW pay-per-view like 2 weeks ago where, for some reason, Swerve Strickland, who for a while there was becoming one of the most popular babyfaces despite his dastardly ways, and they had to switch him, make him the champion. For some reason, he turned heel on Bryan Danielson. Okay?
Yeah.
And we were all rooting against him just 2 weeks ago, and Bryan Danielson beat him for the title. Flash forward to
several days later.
Yeah, he's now back in a feud with Hangman Page, which is fine because they've done some entertaining stuff.
I asked you who was the babyface.
Well, I said,
and you were certain that Hangman was the babyface.
I thought Hangman Page was going to be the babyface because I'm like, okay, well, we're thinking long term. Like originally, Swerve did attack dudes, or try to attack his family, and like broke in his house and like did some shit with his kid. And with the way they've been doing things, like surely, like I think Hangman Page has to be the babyface now, especially because
now, don't call me Shirley.
I apologize, especially because Swerve just turned heel.
Right.
But no, earlier in the day. I mean, they did do it. It was well done the way they did it.
Yes, if you didn't just come off of hating Swerve.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. But like, the way they set it up, it was like if you understood where it was probably going to go, you're like, oh, I got to tune in tonight to AEW. But yeah, Swerve gets his bonus and he buys his childhood home that he always promised his mom that he was going to buy back. And I'm thinking when I saw this, I'm like, well, that's kind of a babyface thing to put on the show and the social media, but okay. And sure enough, Hangman Page goes to that childhood home later in the night and starts dumping gas everywhere, and
Swerve begins to weep on his knees.
We've talked about this recently. There is too much crying happening with wrestlers nowadays to where it's like it's just overblown. Like, and not even like. When it's genuine, that's fine. But, like, there's, like, a lot of fake crying happening. And, like, we'll talk about it when we talk about the All Out review with the BBC or the BCC, whatever, Blackpool.
The BBC, huh?
Blackpool Combat BCC.
Okay.
They turned on Bryan Danielson.
You could turn
and
me on.
You got Wheeler Yuta being held back by like one hand with Pac and like just crying.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what are we doing here? Like, are we supposed to be wrestlers? Like, there's just like, so anyways, so Swerve is crying, and I get it. Maybe perhaps if you're seeing your childhood home being burnt down, you would cry. But here's the thing. The way Swerve's character's been, I can't imagine a scenario where, and maybe this is just a too easy of a go-to, but I can't imagine a scenario where, in his prime, Stone Cold Steve Austin would get his childhood home burnt down, and he would cry in the ring as a babyface. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's hard to imagine that.
Not even when Shawn Michaels was a babyface, because I don't want to compare Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Because it's two different characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but maybe Swerve is more along the lines of The Rock.
Sure.
Or Shawn Michaels, that cocky, not take no shit.
Yeah.
Babyface. But yeah, so yeah, like and then, you know, could you see Shawn Michaels on his knees crying? Oh, maybe, because when he got beat up by those 13 thugs.
Yeah, and then he lost his smile and he cried. I mean, Shawn kind of ushered in crying in wrestling. But also, we're talking about Shawn Michaels here, so I don't think we're like Shawn. Like, listen, all right, it's a rough call with Shawn because like, he is ushered in crying in cinematic ways that matter. I don't know.
This was just weird, man. I'm not a fan of it.
Visually, it's cool, but like I'm torn. And I'm trying not to have an AEW bias here.
No, just don't. I would love to see something like that, but not at that moment for that character.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see Wheeler Yuta crying. Yeah, Bryan Danielson just saved him from Swerve's beatdown.
Yeah. Yeah. That just happened. But again, we'll talk about that in depth. So, what I wanted to talk about specifically, and again, we will talk about the whole show in long form over on patreon.com/ironwrestling, but a lot of controversy about the cage match that they had at the pay-per-view, and I went to social media and I went to Patreon to kind of get people's thoughts on the main event. Do you think Swerve and Hangman took things too far? Is this something you want to see more of with AEW? Is there a happy medium? Your thoughts on unprotected chair shots still occurring in wrestling. We got a lot of feedback. Juan Ortiz said, didn't go far enough. Someone's family got to be in a shark cage hanging above a pool of hungry crocodiles, and the only way to rescue them is to get your hand raised. Book it, Tony, you coward. I sense a little bit of sarcasm there. Unsure. Eric says, it reminds me of the time where you two forced that album into all of our phones. Why do you think we want it? Why not give us an album of your greatest hits, not this new light yak crap? Does anyone still have that album? I think everybody deleted that off their phone immediately when they did that, which was a weird thing. But
what?
You don't remember that? A few years ago, like anybody that had an iPhone, they without having a choice, they just gave them a brand new YouTube album. They put it on everybody's phone. People are like, how do I get this off my phone? Why is it on my phone? It's a real thing that happened.
On what kind of phone?
An iPhone.
Oh, I don't have. I got the other one.
An Android.
Yeah.
You would have an Android.
And I just got minutes put on it, too, so I wouldn't have got that album.
James Norberto said, we'll never give one dime if he... will never give Snowman one dime if he continues to book to appease his blood porn fetishes. Senseless, dangerous booking, and I think the question legitimately has to be asked. Is the final bozo looking to have his own Owen moment? Okay, dude. I don't think he's trying to have his own Owen moment, especially that he's working with Martha Hart.
I don't know. He had, what's his name? Darby Allin come down Out of the rafters.
That was approved by Martha, supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly.
But what
I
I'm
wasn't
so,
there.
I don't think he's trying to have his own. What he's trying to say is he's trying to get someone fucking killed in the ring.
Yeah, well, I think that's a legitimate question.
I don't know what he's trying to do exactly. We will talk about some of the spots here in a second that happened in that match beyond the chair shot, which Mike Hateful said. Everyone is focusing on the needle and the chair shot, but what about the power bomb on the concrete block? Even if it was, quote, padded, no one should be taking a shot like that on their back. So a lot of stuff was going down in this match. This is their third match of their series. Some online have been so bold to compare Swerve and Hangman to all-time great feuds like Triple H and The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't know about that. However, it has been one of the most compelling feuds in AEW's short history. You knew they had to do something big, especially in a lights-out cage match. Here's my thing. I think at that level, when we're on the indies, and I don't know much about Hangman's backstory on the indies. He's from I think he ruled around a lot with the Young Bucks, right? So he probably worked a lot of smarter shows. But I know Swerve's history. And I know Swerve had a period of time where he did a lot of shit for CZW, okay? I was there the one year where he did Cage of Death, okay? He was like one of the final two guys in the ring. It was him and Ricky Shane Page, and they did some fucking wild stuff. So I know he has that in him. However, when you're working for a company with millions of dollars like AEW or WWE, you could still do crazy stuff. You can also do crazy stuff in a safe, set-up way. I think back to one of my favorite crazy matches done on a high scale, and I think about Cactus Jack and Triple H, Royal Rumble 2000. And I don't think I realized it as a kid, but as time went on and I'd go back and watch that match, if you remember, there's a spot where the barbed wire board gets pulled out, okay? And then Earl Hebner takes the barbed wire board, okay? And it gets put behind the table. Now, and the barbed wire is all coming off and it's all mangled and everything. And then later we come back to the barbed wire board. Cactus Jack goes to grab it back from behind the table. But for some reason, I don't know if they had a prop guy back there that was fixing the barbed wire for him just in case he grabbed it back from where Earl Hebner put it. The barbed wire looked like it had just been recently wrapped on the 2x4 again.
Yeah.
As it turns out, it was a second barbed wire board with fake barbed wire, so Triple H could get cracked in the head, and then Triple H could just blade. I mean, it's pretty simple. We've seen in the past in WWE, we talk about the concrete block spot, okay?
Yeah.
Is it sort of absurd the way WWE's done in the past where, like, I think one time Eric Bischoff, like, hit JR in the face with it or something, or in the leg? I think one time Scott Hall, like, did something to Stone Cold and, like, these cinder blocks just crumbled. People know that cinder blocks don't do that. But you know what? It's wrestling. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a better visual than maybe a guy falling on a rock-solid cinder block and potentially ending their career. I think we could work around that when we're working with millions of dollars. And I think if you're a fan in that moment, the visual of what appears to be a cinder block, as long as it's not like when Hacksaw Jim Duggan had a fake 2x4 in WCW and it looks like rubber. Yeah. I think if it crumbles, I think we can kind of get behind that and we hear the sound and we can pop for it without a guy actually getting physically injured and or his career ending.
That cinder block spot, I know I've talked about it here before, but I had Hobo Joe do a cinder block spot with me before where he took maybe my crutch and the cinder block over my crotch.
Yes.
And then he hit the cinder block, and, you know, the illusion is that my crotch is hurt then.
Yeah.
That he hit my balls or my dick.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, neither of those things are that big to be hurt by that. No. The thing is, I saw an old magic show where you put an egg under the cinder block and you hit the cinder block, and the egg doesn't crack.
Yeah.
And that's because the cinder block is taking the shot.
Sure.
So, the egg is protected. My eggs were protected.
Yeah.
And so, you can still do that and get the same reaction from the people. You don't need to get power bombed onto the cinder block.
I think so. So the finish of this match, and again, I understand the storytelling perspective. The final thing that you see is a chair shot to the head to take out Swerve, and Hangman finally gets his victory after all he's been through with Swerve Strickland. I've kind of talked about it on the show before. I hate chair shots to the back and to the body. I don't understand how guys in WWE take it repeatedly all the time now. Because obviously we don't want to do chair shots to the head, so we got to hit somewhere. That shit hurts.
Yeah.
Guys, it's a steel chair. And I don't know where this idea came from, where supposedly we're getting these sawed down chairs that Tony Khan has been using for headshots.
Right.
I don't know how you do that. I've never heard of that before
Neither have
it
I.
started surfacing on the internet recently, nor have I ever felt or experienced that. I don't know what that would feel like, a sawed down steel chair. But fact of the matter is this. If we're going to do a chair shot to the head sparingly, I would still prefer a guy put a hand up. Why? Well, because A, once again, CTE is real, but also B, if you put the hand up and your hand takes the majority of the shot, your instinct, if something's coming towards your face, you probably would put up your hand, and also you still get the sound, which elicits the reaction.
Right.
You don't need to fucking bust someone in the head for real. So that's my thing. Yeah. And here's my other thing too. I would never do the needle in the mouth thing. I hate seeing that on shows. I think it's like the epitome of garbage deathmatch wrestling, because there has never been I've never seen it done in a match, and if somebody can cite it where it makes sense, please let me know. But I've never seen it done in a match where I'm like, yep, that was done because it pays off this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Never has a needle or a syringe come into play into a story that I know of to where it was a callback where I was like, oh, that makes sense. To the best of my knowledge, unless I missed something in this angle, that needle in the mouth was unnecessary. And it appeared to me as if Hangman was trying to put it through his cheek, because that's what they usually do on the indies, and either it didn't go through or I just couldn't see from the camera shot. But I don't know, to me it was gross and it was unnecessary. And again, I might be able to buy into that if there was something in the story that led to it, but since there was nothing, it was needless and pointless and made no sense. Give me your thoughts on what went down in that match. I know I said a lot there, but
I didn't care for it. I told you I had fallen asleep right before this match.
Okay.
And I had heard, because while I was sleeping, when I woke up, I had heard a review. My TV went to YouTube, whatever. Somebody was reviewing the show, and they said somebody stuck a syringe in Swerve's mouth.
Yeah.
And I didn't go back to watch it. I've got no interest. Zero interest. I don't want to see a syringe in anyone's mouth. And also, I think it's weird when wrestlers do anything with a syringe.
Yeah.
I mean, the misconception, or maybe it's not even misconception, of the thought that all wrestlers do steroids.
Yeah.
You don't even want to mess with needles and syringes.
Sure.
Why even bring it up?
Yeah.
Why do you even have that?
Yeah.
Again, what was the story behind that? Was Swerve calling Hangman a steroid abuser or a heroin addict?
Well, again, that's the thing. I don't know, what would be the reason where you'd think, yep, I'm gonna pull out a needle and stick it in this guy's mouth.
Exactly.
I don't know. If anything, I don't know, you just lit the man's house on fire. But, I mean, we've recently tried to light another wrestler on fire several times in the past recently, Jack Perry. But, I mean, putting a gasoline can into play would have made more sense than the needle.
Yeah.
I mean,
But they do gasoline with Jack Perry, too.
Well, they do it every week.
Yeah.
They do it every week now. So, I mean...
maybe, make dude drink the gasoline.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know that any of that stuff needs to be done.
What about the chair shots to the head? What about the cinder block? What about like is there a
The
place
cinder
for
block
it?
I already addressed.
Do we not do it, or do we make it safer?
We make it safer. And I don't want the chair shots to the back of the head, the back of the neck, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. My wrestling, my enjoyment of wrestling isn't to watch one man end another man's life.
What was the worst thing off the top of your head? Or was there anything in ECW that you remember happening that you went, okay, even for ECW, that's too far? I know we're going back 25 years, so it's a different time in wrestling. But like, was there ever anything that you ever saw in ECW where it's like, yeah, that's too much for me?
I guess the crucifix angle that offended Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
But
I'm saying like from a physicality standpoint. You know what I'm saying? Like something where it's like.
So then I would go with the chair shots to the head. I never liked that because I had I've taken them.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I was training. And one of the first things we were doing was doing chair shots because it was a big deal. I took numerous chair shots.
Okay, bro, got to train your head
Yeah.
for a shot to the dome.
Right.
What?
So lots of chair shots I dealt with, and I knew I didn't like them. And I remember there was the barbed wire with Sabu and Terry Funk.
Okay.
That looked like that was too much for me.
Yeah.
So there were things like that. The fall through the tables, Tommy Dreamer fell through 3 tables off the top of the Eagle's Nest or whatever.
Okay.
That seemed like a lot. And Tommy Dreamer putting Brian Lee through the 3 tables as they were on some contraption that was rigged by the Sandman 90 minutes before the show started.
Yeah.
With like dental floss and dog chains or something. That looked like that was, I think they got away with a lot.
Yeah.
But, man, ugh. I don't know. There's a lot of cringe things.
Someone tried to start a petition online to, I guess, like get AEW pulled from TV or something. It doesn't have a lot of traction. It's kind of absurd that it got started, but it was like they had like 30 signatures and they wanted 50. Like, what even is the fucking point to start a petition at that point? But there's a lot of controversy involving this main event match at All Out. I kind of said my piece. I'll say more over on Patreon, but I want to get your guys' thoughts on it, feedback on social media. What do you guys think of this match? How much is too much? What's the most obscene thing you've seen in a prominent wrestling promotion? Because again, and again, I'll talk about it in depth when I talk about All Out, but if I want to watch a whole garbage wrestling show, I'll just go to IWTV, and that's no disrespect to IWTV, but like if that's something you're into, that's great. But I don't want to watch a whole show with blood and random weapon use and blah blah blah. Like I like.
Well, that was my thing too. Is that wasn't the only match where that kind of stuff happened. We just saw Willow and Chris Statlander, which I felt like might have been the best match on the show.
We got to talk about it on Patreon because it's we have to. We have to.
Okay,
we have to.
They're telling me in my ear we have to also.
But like it's just like where is the psychology? I know there were smart people working behind the scenes at AEW. I sort of know why, but I think I need more concrete answers as to why. Like, I'll tell you this. I'll leave you with this for the teaser for Patreon. When I was in the Alpha One locker room last night, the guys running the locker room, there was a sheet of here's the moves you can do, here's the moves you can't do, and then we have a meeting where we go, hey, does anybody have a move that they don't want repeated tonight? Why? Because we're structuring a whole goddamn show. Yeah. Hey, is anybody doing a roll-up finish tonight? Because we don't want that repeated. We don't want fucking 4 matches back-to-back with flash pins. So it's like, if we can do this in a small show for 500 people in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, I think we can fucking do this in Illinois for a multi-billion-dollar company. So that's all I'll say about that. Patreon.com/Iron Wrestling for the all-out review and whatever else we decide to talk about on Patreon. But now, my friend, I think we should talk about, I don't know, someone that could be considered the best that there is, maybe perhaps that there was, arguably that there ever will be.
We already did a Juan plug.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the other one, the one that's in the wrestling
The other
business.
one.
The Hitman.
Oh.
Bret Hart.
Okay. What do you want to talk about?
This past Monday night, he made an appearance on Raw, which we'll talk about in depth. But let's start from the beginning. When you think of Bret Hart, what is your first memory of seeing the Hitman?
In the Hart Foundation.
Yeah.
And I think he was wearing blue and black. That's how far I go back to.
Yeah,
it.
there it is.
Right? And with Jimmy Hart. And I remember just being so upset when they won. Because it wasn't long after that Jim Neidhart and Bret Hart won the tag team championship from the British Bulldogs. And Danny Davis was a screwy referee. And there was... I think a megaphone involved, and I wrote a letter to the WWF.
Whoa.
About how the Hart Foundation could not have Danny Davis refereeing their matches anymore.
It's not fair.
No, definitely not. And that the British Bulldogs needed to get their tag team championship rematch, and if not, then the match should go to Tito Santana and somebody, because Tito was my favorite. I think Tito Santana and Junkyard Dog was a team I wanted.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah. But Bret Hart, everybody liked Bret Hart that was in my school. Like, you like the Hart Foundation, you like Bret Hart.
Sure.
I liked Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Yeah.
Because he had the laugh
for,
and the goatee.
For me, like, when I would see the Hart Foundation, like, it's funny because in the WWF that I grew up on, my favorite teams were all very different teams. I love the Rockers, I love the Legion of Doom, and I love the Hart Foundation. But what I think there was something about the Hart Foundation for me as a kid where I'm like, I feel like that's what a tag team should be. And maybe there was something subconscious in my brain that was driven in me by commentary. I could see probably Gorilla putting over some stuff, but it was cool to see like Sean and Marty were like the same.
Both were high flyers.
They complemented each other with the same stuff, right? LOD were the same. Both power guys, right? Mm-hmm. But like I felt like in some ways as a kid trying to look at wrestling like a sport, and I still think it's real, I'm like, man, these guys have like the edge over other teams because they can do power when they put Jim in, and then when they tag in Bret, he can do all the submission stuff and like the technical stuff. And so like I thought like they were arguably the coolest tag team. And like my first exposure is WrestleMania 6 and that squash match that they have with Nikolai and Boris Yukov.
Yeah.
But a match that I watched a lot with them as a kid was the WrestleMania 7 match with the Nasty Boys, which I think in a lot of ways is very underrated. It's my favorite Nasty Boys match, but it might
Nasty Boys won the titles?
Yes, it might
with
be.
With a motorcycle helmet?
Yes, it might be my favorite Nasty Boys match ever. It might be their best match ever. I would challenge you to cite a better Nasty Boys match, but I thought the Hart Foundation was like an incredible tag team, and as a kid, I didn't understand why they separated. There was never officially a breakup, and for me, this is
it happened a couple times.
Yes, but for me, when they separate after WrestleMania 7, that's their first separation.
For you,
Jim kind of because I'm not watching in '89 or whatever. But I really Bret became one of my guys when he became the single dude in the summer of '91, and obviously that match with Mr. Perfect at SummerSlam, still one of my all-time favorites, and it's funny, people also say, like, they had a great match at King of the Ring 93 as well. Guess what, guys? It's the same match. Literally watching SummerSlam 91 and then watch King of the Ring 93. They only change a few things in the match at King of the Ring because
Mr. Perfect's a babyface.
Then they're now baby faces.
Yeah.
So they change a few things. Like, I think the cutoff is a little different. I I think they do a similar spot with the apron in the barricade. They changed something there, and then obviously the finish is different. They don't go with the sharpshooter for the finish. But other than that, beat by beat, it's basically the same match, which leads me to believe that they probably had a pretty identical match all the time on the house shows.
That's all I ever thought. Yep, they had this one down.
And it was probably like they said, 2 years has passed. No one's going to remember SummerSlam 91, right?
And, there was hundreds maybe of people that had the VHS that would, and only dozens out of that were that hardcore of a wrestling fan that would go back and compare the two matches.
Here's the thing. I never even did that until I became a wrestler. Like, I remember thinking, like, damn, like, their SummerSlam 91 match was great, but, like, their King of the Ring match, like, I think it gets slept on. It's arguably just as good.
Because Mr. Perfect didn't cheat in that one.
Yeah, but I was like, it's, like, almost just as good. I'm like, it's because it was the same match, Greg.
Yeah.
That's why it was the same match. But, like, and I've said it before on the show, when Hogan left in 93, again, I would have liked anybody that the WWF told me to like because I was like a dumb kid, but Bret really did become my guy for those couple years that I was watching the WWF, and there's always that argument of like who's better, Bret and Shawn, and it's hard to pick because like they were both great in their own ways and like equal in terms of storytellers, but different types of storytellers, and neither one was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like Shawn Michaels, I think, took more from like movies and like added drama to his matches in like like I mentioned, a cinematic type way, whereas Bret was more of like, what are all the beats to this that I can like make everything believable, even the most little things, right? Not to say that Shawn didn't do little nuanced things, but like I think like Bret really wanted you to like invest in the stuff that in most matches you might look over, right? Like even going back to when I think about one of my all-time favorite matches, Bret and Roddy, like the way that he bladed without anybody knowing when Roddy says, "Oh, shoes untied," and then kicks Bret in the face, and then it's just like it's so believable. Like who would do that for a blade spot now? Is just like a little boop kick to the face. We see fucking no-sell super kicks all the time, and here's just a simple like up kick in the face, because guess what? If you get kicked in the face in real life, you're gonna fucking bleed. So that's my rambling about that.
I was gonna say a famous Bret Hart spot, which when I was a kid I'd always go, and this guy knows everything about wrestling. He's the excellence of execution. He's the most technical wrestler of all time. Except for some reason, he just can't figure out to turn his body into the turnbuckles.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Right? And I kept going, why is he so smart about everything? He could turn any move into the sharpshooter or into a roll-up pin, or he outsmarts people and puts them in a small package, whatever, a crucifix pin. He could do all this cool stuff. He can't figure out to turn his body to go into the turnbuckle.
And listen, that's something awesome to bring up because, like, as a fan, it's a subconscious thing. As a wrestler, I think one of the things that you should strive to do is to do some sort of sell or bump that no one else is doing, something that is unique to you, because, like, I always remembered that about Bret. Two things, actually. One, that he always took the turnbuckle with his chest, and I was like, fuck. Like, and when you think about it, no one else does that, right? And, like, you felt his pain. Sometimes you felt like, geez, like the sound, I've tried to replicate that. I know other guys that have tried to replicate. I don't know what Bret did to make that sound as loud as it was every time, but it felt like no one could take that impact as good as Bret did. But also, something that I would do as a kid, because I'd watch Bret's matches, he loved to sell the knee. Yeah. And so, like, I would always, like, walk around, like, and I'd be limping, and I'm like, oh, like, Bret Hart, his knee's always hurt. Like, that was, like, a thing as a little kid. I'm like, Bret's knee is always hurt, because he always did that in matches. So it's like, the Ric Flair bump over the rope, the Ric Flair flop, right? Yeah. Certain guys doing certain bumps. The Shawn Michaels flop, which I'm sure was inspired by Rick, but like he did it.
Rick and a Ray Stevens, I think, is what I heard he attributed that to.
The Harley Race bump, which later becomes the Triple H bump. Like, if you can figure out how to do stuff like that to where, like, again, there's so many little things that as a wrestler I can't do because I don't have two hands, that I always tell guys, go back and watch videos from 20 years ago, the late 90s, early 2000s, go back to the early 90s. pick out little things that like you don't see other wrestlers do because they're so worried about like spot, run, reverse, dip, whatever the fuck. Like pick something that no one else is doing, so that way when you do it, it stands out. And like subconsciously to the average fan, when they think about you selling, which is like crazy to think about. Like we know it's like oh, this is the 5 moves of doom this person does. If they can think about something that you do when you're in pain, when you're on the sell, that's powerful. That sticks with you, and that's something I feel like Bret did better than almost anybody.
I think you're right.
I think you're also right.
Yeah. Bret's one of the greatest of all time, if not, when they talk about Mount Rushmore, I could put Bret up there. Maybe not for draw, but just overall compelling character.
Was he not a draw for you?
I don't know if he was a draw for me because when he was on his roll, I knew he was going to win all the time.
Yeah.
I even thought he'd beat Yokozuna, though. I was surprised when he lost to Yoko.
At WrestleMania 9?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I just said, this guy's on the roll of a lifetime. He was beating everybody with the sharpshooter.
Sure.
He was beating Shawn Michaels, the Intercontinental Champion. He beat Razor Ramon. He's just rolling through guys. I go, he's going to be champ forever.
Yeah.
And then Hogan had to come back.
Did you think that once he won the belt back, did you have that same feeling of like, Owen's not going to beat him?
Yeah, for a while.
Like, you didn't think Backlund was going to beat him, right? I mean, who could have saw that coming?
No. Although I was worried because there was the shenanigans involved. Wasn't there a special referee? Yeah, Piper was a ref, right?
Piper was the ref for WrestleMania 11, the I Quit match, which was just a dog shit contest. Bret's worst match at WrestleMania is that match.
Somebody was in his corner.
You're talking about Survivor Series 94 when they had to throw in the towel scenario.
Yeah.
So it was Bulldog
Right.
and his parents in his corner, and then in Bob Backlund's corner, he didn't have anybody.
No.
But the gimmick they were trying to do the callback to, because that's how Backlund lost the title, was like Arnie Skolin threw in the towel for him, so like that was an option for the I Quit scenario. Bret was never going to quit. Owen started crying and pleading, like, please throw in the towel. And, his mom had enough and threw in the towel. Bret lost the belt. That ruined my childhood for a second. Bob Backlund winning the belt.
But then we move forward, and my favorite faction of all time was the Hart Foundation.
Yeah.
Still to this day, Canadian Hart Foundation.
Sure.
Bulldog, Brian Pillman, Bret Hart. I mean, and them all just coming together. Yeah. Owen Hart, finally the reunion of the brothers.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think about, like...
Sonny.
Well, I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I'm sorry, she wasn't.
When you think about that updated version of the Hart Foundation and the impact that it left with Bret being a bad guy and really embracing that, they were only around for like 6 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's wild to think about. And arguably, if you've never seen it, you got to go back and watch it. The reaction they get at Canadian Stampede when they come out, they said if you were in the building that night, like the building was shaking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a crazy reaction to watch on TV. Probably one of the best moments of Bret's career, to be standing there with, like, not all of his brothers, but his brothers. Yeah. His family's there, You have that moment with them in the ring after the show. Bret's heel run, I think, very underrated. And, he had his moments where he would get a little too rambly. And maybe Bret didn't know where he was going with the things that he was saying. But in general, I think had Bret stuck around into like 98 and 99 in the WWF, I think he could have really kept going with that heel character and really had a lot of momentum.
Sure.
Worked with a lot of great guys during that time period.
And you could have gone back to a feud with Austin.
Sure.
A year of them cooling off and then getting back into something.
Yeah.
Whether it was over a title or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Bret being the champion, beating Austin.
Well, when you think about Bret Hart in the WWF, I do think it's about that feud with Austin. And, something that Austin has said quite often, and I would like to talked to him about this at some point. You know, he always cites that feud and obviously the match with Bret at WrestleMania 13 for making the Stone Cold Steve Austin character. But I always think about, too, when supposedly Bret was talking to WCW in the fall of 1996, and they were unsure if he was going to come back. If Bret goes to WCW in 96, Stone Cold would have still got over, but who does he work with that makes him going into 1997?
Because you think about who was he feuding with? Savio Vega?
Yeah.
Even if you turn Savio heel, that's not going to do anything for Stone Cold, really.
No. Well, because I don't think Savio was over enough. Like I
know
Austin really likes those matches that he had with Savio, you know. He had a lot of great matches with Shawn when he first came into the company that no one saw until they started releasing DVDs and best ofs and hidden gems on the network. But I don't know if he's working with Shawn because he's like, you know, he's losing
Who else
his smile.
Was Vader? That wouldn't have worked.
Like, who would have been that opposing character? Sid? I don't know. Like,
it wouldn't have worked again. Like, it had to be somebody as serious as Bret the Hitman Hart.
You could argue that if he wasn't hurt, perhaps maybe you could have done Pillman and Austin because I feel like WWF really wanted to go with that. Because even if you go back to King of the Ring 96, where Steve's coming to the ring and Pillman, they're crossing paths and they, like, make eye contact.
Oh, that was so cool.
It's funny to think about, like, even back then, I remember because I'm starting to get smart too, and I was like, wait a minute, this is almost like acknowledging WCW on WWF television.
I remember thinking that
so
too.
It was like a if you know, you know type scenario. So like if Brian would have been the Brian Pillman of like even 95 as far as like what he could do as a wrestler, because what Austin needed in 97 to get to that next level, which again, he would have got there on his own because his character was strong enough, but like him and Bret were two incredible storytellers. And that WrestleMania 13 match, there's nothing fancy in that match, but it feels real. It feels like a fight. It feels like it could be rooted in reality. And like, listen.
Who else was top star? Ahmed?
Well,
it wouldn't have been him.
No.
Hawk or Animal?
I mean,
Goldust?
The only person I could think of, but again, he leaves in February and doesn't come back till, later in the year. So maybe perhaps it happens later in the year. It might have had to be Steve and Shawn, but then that changes the whole trajectory of like D-Generation X. Like, is it does it become like a
Hunter?
DX? Does it become a DX versus Austin thing instead of like DX and Taker later in the year? Is that what like? Is there a bigger build to what happens at WrestleMania 14 like throughout the course of 1997? Is it like we're in and out of that kind of like we were with Bret and Austin, because we do Bret and Austin in November. We kind of go away from it from a little bit. We come back to it. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Henry Godwin?
That's okay. Come on. I need you to be serious here.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to think. There's nobody else. It had to have been Bret.
Yeah. I mean, Bret was
I'd love to fantasy book that, but I just don't see anybody else.
I would be curious to see who Steve says would have been that guy.
Was Kane there yet? See, no, because Kane was with Undertaker.
Not even in 97. He would have been fake Diesel. So what could have been fake Diesel and Austin?
Rick Bogner, the fake Razor.
Yeah, I could see Austin countering the stunner out of a Razor's Edge. That would have been cool. Bret in the WWF, some of the matches they cite as his best during that time period. You go to your Mr. Perfect and Bret, you go to your British Bulldog and Bret. I think in a lot of ways, perhaps maybe if you go back and watch your Bret and Bulldog at that In Your House December 95 was a better match than the SummerSlam match, where I'm not saying Bulldog probably wasn't high at the December 95 match, but he might have been less high than he was at SummerSlam, and Bret had to carry him a little less, but also, again, you add blood to it. Again, it's funny how we're talking about the Swerve Strickland Hangman Page thing. It's like, is it too far? But then, like, I'm bringing out all these like bloody brawls that like Bret created.
And
but again,
Austin,
they were done with meaning. It wasn't like they were doing it for nonsense. One of my favorite feuds with Bret is the 3-match series that he has with Diesel. And again, like, I don't know. Outside of these matches with Bret, I don't think I have a favorite Kevin Nash / Diesel match. I think it's all Bret. Like, I used to love rewatching King of the Ring 94 for that match, Royal Rumble 95, Survivor Series 95, and all three very different matches. I hated that. I think that was it. The 94 match was like some sort of DQ thing, and then 95 was like a double DQ. So I don't even know if we got like an official, because the 94 one was a title for title. It was Intercontinental title and WWF title.
And Jim Neidhart interfered, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then 95, you had Backlund interfering and Shawn and Owen. And then we finally get our finish at Survivor Series 95. That's long-term storytelling. And, again, Shawn and Diesel, that's Diesel's best, one of his best matches. Then it's Bret and Diesel. Like, those are Kevin Nash's two best matches.
That's all I was going to say was you could put Shawn and Diesel up there with
good friends,
but
better
I
enemies.
still don't know that their matches were better than any of the three that Diesel had with Bret.
Yeah, for sure.
That was classic to me, and it was also one of the first times somebody went through a table.
Yes.
On WWF.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that was the first time we had like the collapsing, sort of exploding table scenario. I mean, because if you go back, you had that time where Harley hurt himself in like, what was it, 89 with Hogan with that shitty headbutt where like he legitimately broke his ribs or whatever he did, to where he like fucked up his whole career. And then we had like the Hogan earthquake spot at like SummerSlam 90, which was weird.
And it wasn't good.
It was not good. But the 95, that was the one that set the standard for breaking tables in professional wrestling, I think. What are any other WWF moments that stick out to you in those early days?
For Bret?
Yeah, I mean, obviously him and Owen.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, like, when they started to give him his first singles run, which was before your time of watching, I think him and Bad News were going to be the co-winners of the WrestleMania Battle Royal.
Yeah, smashing that trophy at the end of WrestleMania.
Yeah. And then so Bret and Bad News were going to feud, and they might have had a couple matches.
Yeah.
And then right back into the tag team with Jim.
Yeah.
Which I was okay with because I love that tag team.
Yeah.
And then I loved Demolition and Hart Foundation feud.
Oh, yeah. That's
and
good
then
stuff.
You bring in the third member of Demolition when they returned heel.
Sure. Yep. Crush.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was so happy because I hated Axe. And Axe was, I'm sure, the best one of them. But when I was a kid, I didn't like his voice. I didn't like his face. I didn't like the way they painted his face.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Axe, I could not stand.
I did love Demolition, and literally because, again, the way the commentary is so important. As a kid, because they three-peated as champions at WrestleMania 6, and that's the way they termed it, three-peat, it's like, this is arguably the greatest tag team of all time. These guys have the tag titles 3 times. Yep. This is crazy. And they beat Andre the Giant and Haku. Yeah. Wow. Impressive.
Yeah. As they beat him so bad that Bobby Heenan blamed Andre, and that sparked Andre's return to the babyface.
Yep. Good stuff. Bret's later return in the WWE in 2010, I loved when he came back.
Yeah. You loved his jorts?
No. But I did love when he came back to have that segment with Shawn Michaels. And again, that is, again, as the kids say, cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Them hugging and talking it out. And it was nice to see Bret back home. But here's the thing. Much like Roman Reigns coming back at SummerSlam with a new theme, I hated that Bret came out with like a different version of his theme song for his return, because it made me think like, he's not really going to come out. Like, why is this like a weird remix extended version of his theme song? I hate it so much.
It made me mad.
I hate that WrestleMania 26 match. As far as matches go, not a lot of classics from Bret in the 2010 era of WWE, but I think people forget how many matches he had on the back end of that, the end of his run. Do you know how many matches Bret had?
13.
You think he had 13 matches? Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I remember he had a match with The Miz.
He won the U.S. title.
Yeah, I remember he teamed with the Hart Dynasty.
He did.
He wrestled Vince McMahon.
Well, yeah, we'd like to forget that one. His final match. Do you know what his final match ever was? 9/12/2011. So almost. I can't math, but to the day.
Yeah.
As we record this.
14 years. 13 years.
He it was him and John Cena
Yeah.
defeating Alberto Del Rio and Ricardo Rodriguez.
I remember that he teamed with John Cena.
3 minutes and 20 seconds. That
Uh-huh.
was his last match. In WWE, in that return run, he's had exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 matches.
Damn.
He had 11 matches.
Why did I think 2 more?
He also had somewhere in there a lumberjack match, Chris Jericho and Edge versus Bret Hart and John Cena. No contest, 5 minutes. I would really need to go back and watch some of these because this is crazy. I think people tend to forget that he main evented SummerSlam when it was Team WWE versus Team Nexus.
Yep, I was going to say that one too.
Like, that was a real thing that happened. Bret Hart and the Hart Dynasty, as you mentioned, versus the Nexus, which was Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel, Michael Tarver. He wrestled Michael Tarver.
Yeah.
Ugh, fucking disgusting. He teamed with the Hart Dynasty a lot.
And Michael Tarver didn't injure him.
That is surprising. He wrestled Husky Harris a bunch in some of these tag matches. Bret Hart, Edge, and Rey Mysterio defeated Alberto Del Rio, Cody Rhodes, and Drew McIntyre. That was a house show in November 14th, 2010. It doesn't even have a time listed. I would kind of like to see that, actually.
Yeah,
Bret
me
Hart,
too.
Rey Mysterio, and Edge.
Yeah, a dream team. And then the opponents.
Cody
You look
Rhodes
at-
and Drew McIntyre?
Yeah. Who was the other one? Ted DiBiase?
Alberto Del Rio.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You thought I said Ted DiBiase. You thought Ted DiBiase was also back wrestling. And you thought Ted DiBiase Jr.
Yeah, the
Okay,
imprisoned
all right.
one.
I was like, wait, the $1 Million Man?
No,
You thought he
the
came
$1
out?
Million Boy.
Okay. So not a lot of things that stick out in this last run. Obviously, the bad outweighs the good. You know, we'll always think about that WrestleMania match with Vince and how it arguably was the worst match in WrestleMania history. But Bret has left quite the legacy.
Yeah, he
and
has.
that legacy,
Legacy.
you know, we didn't forget about that legacy. And obviously, they brought him back this past Monday night, which, of course, now we're going to talk about. Bret Hart returned to Monday Night Raw in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Got a great ovation from the hometown crowd. But right away, you remarked that Bret was looking very old.
I thought he looked like he wasn't young anymore.
Well, you know, you could be right about that. But I mentioned that I was on a show with him 2 or 3 months ago, and he looked like Bret. I feel like, you know, makeup in HD. HD really doesn't do anybody. I'm laughing because we're still watching Raw in the background as we're recording this on a Monday night, even though you're listening on a Tuesday night on Patreon or perhaps even a Wednesday as this drops on iTunes or wherever we download podcasts.
I'd be listening
And,
to it on a Saturday in February.
Maybe, but Liv Morgan was just coming out with Dirty Dom, and what were you doing?
I was making a kissy face and a tongue. My tongue was out. I was trying to lick the screen.
Yeah,
but
but
then
like,
she fell.
But
You
like
missed that.
Yeah, I missed that part. But you like, I wish I could describe the creepiness in his eyes as he looked at the TV screen, and I'm trying to have a conversation, and he's like wiggling his tongue like a newborn lizard.
Yeah.
Like a I don't know, do baby birds have tongues when they're like being fed from their mother? Like
that kind of would be how I was gonna tongue.
You know what?
Liv.
Don't even stop that. Just stop it. Anyway, so Bret Hart.
She could chew up any food and put it in my mouth, and I would eat it.
All right, I don't doubt that. I don't. That's my friend Liv. So
Even like some nasty shit like mushrooms or chocolate.
You don't like mushrooms?
No.
What about mushrooms and chocolate at the same time?
I would eat it if Liv chewed it up first.
Okay.
Spit it into my mouth.
But you have to like chew it up and then swallow it.
Whatever, I don't care.
Then she just leaves.
Yeah, that's
it.
also
all that
fine.
happens.
I still have that story. So then, there I was. Liv Morgan was chewing
Okay.
chocolate-covered mushrooms.
That's fine.
She spit them into my mouth.
Fucking disgusting. Anyways,
And I got this picture, and I would post it every year.
Bret Hart. Juan, do not make that into a T-shirt. Brett comes to the ring.
Two clouds. Liv Morgan's
No,
on.
Brett gets a great ovation, and he's got Wade Barrett in the ring. And what's the new announcer guy's name?
Well, I know that Stu was in the ring.
Well, that's what That's what Gunther called him. He accidentally called him by his real name. Or you know what? Maybe he was trying to make it real in that moment. Maybe
he was calling him Stu Hart.
No, he was calling him Stu Bennett.
Oh, yeah, that too.
That's his name.
Yeah. I think Wade was actually probably the unsung hero of that segment.
Yeah.
Because Bret wasn't the greatest in it. He wasn't the best there was.
Bret was fine. Actually, it's funny. Like, now that he doesn't probably have a script that he has to read from every time he's there and memorize, like the day of, he seemed like he was more a little bit more pep in his step when it came to cutting that promo for a second there. Gunther comes out and interrupts him, and obviously sort of backhanded complimenting him, childhood hero, blah, blah, blah. But he told him that he was his second favorite. And at first, as we're watching, I go, Shawn Michaels. I say Shawn Michaels. And then
what did I say?
And as a joke, you say Bill Goldberg. And he said, my all-time favorite wrestler. And I've never seen Gunther deliver something with such a real smile. He said, my all-time favorite wrestler has always been Bill Goldberg, and we started crying, laughing. And even when Sami Zayn came out after and he starts cutting his promo, every serious statement that Sami's making, it's not like a bad guy put on grin that Gunther has on his face. I think he's still basking in the moment of knowing that he got to say that to the face of Bret Hart and even Bret Hart had a little smirk on his face, like Jesus Christ, I didn't know that was coming. Okay,
that was so good. I was saying I bet what they said was we'll have him say Shawn Michaels.
Yeah,
and Bret was like, okay, I agree to that.
Yes,
and then
Hunter was like, Hunter pulls him aside and goes,
"You're gonna say Bill Goldberg?
Hey, say Bill Goldberg. If you want to throw something in about him being 4 out of 10, that works for me too." Yeah. So then Sami comes out, and it's
the best line ever in wrestling, probably.
What's that? The 4 out of 10.
Bill Goldberg.
Bill Goldberg. Yeah. It was very good. It was very, very good. They're clearly setting up for Sami and Gunther a rematch, which will be great.
You're wrong.
What?
They're clearly setting up the tag match: Sami and Bret Hart against Gunther and Goldberg.
Good to ignore that. Obviously Sami is the only guy to really have defeated Gunther, and so he's trying to avoid giving him that match. But I think it's going to happen at Bad Blood at the end of the month, and I'm very much looking forward to that. But it was nice to see Bret return. It was nice to kind of go down memory lane about Bret's run in the WWF, some of our favorite moments and matches. But we're going to talk about more stuff over on the Patreon this week.
Can we talk about your guy in the LWO? He looks like he's Deuce and Domino's long-lost cousin now.
I don't know. Again, I don't know why he left for a little bit and then shaved his beard.
Look, he's got jeans on. Sorry, we're watching this right now live.
He looks like a completely different guy. But we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff on Patreon, some stuff outside of wrestling. I saw Beetlejuice this weekend, so we'll probably talk about that for a second over on Patreon.
No, we want people to listen. Nobody gives a shit.
I'm sorry. Beetlejuice made $110 million this weekend, you fucking piece of shit.
People like that movie?
What is wrong with you?
What about Beetlejuice?
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I thought you went and watched that old movie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
With Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder. What's this one?
It's a movie with Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder. What? Yeah.
Oh, man, you kids these days.
I'm telling you, Winona at 53 years old has no right to look as good as she looks.
Yeah?
It's crazy.
Well, I was always a fan,
so
I can't wait to see her again.
Patreon.com/Iron Wrestling. We'll do a whole bonus episode. We'll be reviewing All Out. We'll be talking about our, other stuff that comes up wrestling related, maybe some stuff that we probably would never share on the free version, so we'll go over there, check it out. It always gets a little bit more dangerous over on the Patreon, and make sure if you aren't on the Patreon, which is the best way to support us, you can always subscribe to the podcast wherever you download podcasts, so you always get alerts. Make sure you leave a 5-star review about the podcast on iTunes or wherever you download it. Subscribe on YouTube as we continue to grow that. And you can follow us on @IronOnWrestling on social media. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm @Gregory Iron, but I don't post there a lot. you probably should go over to Instagram and follow me there at Gregory_Iron. Facebook.com/The Handicapped Hero. You can book me there for pro wrestling motivational speaking or pro wrestling seminars. Just send me a DM and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Cameo, if you'd like a video shout out of some sort. ProWrestlingTees.com/Gregory Iron for my out of print shirts, Aaron shirts, Iron on Wrestling shirts. And that's all I got to plug this week. Aaron, what would you like to plug?
Hey, R.I.P. to Darth Vader's voice. James Earl Jones, as we were recording this, we found out he just passed away.
Very sad.
The young, tender age of 93.
Yeah, that's a full life.
Oh, that is true.
Not too shabby.
How do you think he passed?
Probably...
Natural causes, or?
I would hope that before he went, he revealed that he was someone's father.
Oh, yeah. Just like I'm your daddy.
R.I.P. and James Earl Jones. And nothing you want to plug?
Yeah, fair to Aaron on Instagram.
All right.
I'll be posting some photos. Hey, congratulations also to my Special Olympics softball skills team as we went to Oregon. And we were on the trail. Did you make that joke last week?
I did make that joke. Yeah.
And then I repeated that joke several times over the week. And, well, people over 50 got it.
Yeah.
And those who weren't did not. But, so we placed third. We got the bronze medal, a bunch of bronze medals, and had a really good time. So, and I'm just happy to be here with you right now. And I can't wait to go record this other podcast that we're going to do.
This could be good times. If we have time, we might even record a video. Who knows? Might get wild and crazy.
Might get naked.
Well, I didn't say that. He's the one that said that. And he's going to have to get consent from me first because, listen, I don't really do the pronoun game.
Yeah.
All right?
What would yours be?
But I identify as a threat. Okay? Yeah. My pronouns are try me. Okay.
You can't even get through it.
I saw it on a shirt.
We saw the shirt. And
I respect everybody's pronouns. Those aren't my real pronouns. But,
no,
you know what?
Somebody's actually selling this shirt, and I'm sure people are buying it.
It's a real shirt. Teenhearts.com. But I don't even know why I'm plugging that. But,
there's no want.
That's the end of the show. Hey, listen, if you can't laugh at life, then what do you have, right? You can't take everything serious. But until next week, we seriously want to see you back here, and thanks for tuning in. Thanks for supporting the show, and
I'll miss all of you.
Here's a consensual kiss goodbye, no matter what your pronouns
and a ghost
are.
Kiss from Chris Cole, who couldn't be with us sadly tonight.
Hopefully we'll have him next week. Son of a bitch. What? No,
what?
He didn't.
He got called into work.
He passed over us and went to his job.
Yeah.
All right, kiss goodbye.